Welcome to Trust the Journey. I'm Jason Maletsky.
And I'm Melanie Curtis.
Our mission is to live, laugh, love, and learn together with you.
Amen. We are here to create conscious connections, to grow and contribute through our practice of openness, honesty, vulnerability, humility, and trust, trusting the entire journey.
If you would like to connect with us anywhere on the internet, you can find us by typing trustthejourney.today. That'll bring you to our website directly, where you can purchase merchandise, you can subscribe, and we'll send you updates when there's new episodes posted. You can become a Patreon follower by clicking on the orange button, and that will get you into the Trust the Journey family, where we have a loving group of people that support each other on our journey together. And you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to shout out to us on Instagram, we'd love to receive your messages. And
Yeah, heck yeah. Right on, family. Thank you all so much for being with us. All right, here we go. Okay, guys, in this episode, we're doing something a little different. We thought we would experiment with sharing a list of, in this episode, our favorite movies and why. The why piece of this experiment is, I think, the key piece, right? We could just list a bunch of things that we like in various forms of art or whatever, but sharing why we choose these things, I think, is where the conversation is going to expand. So I'm actually excited to talk about this and see where it goes.
It's fun to change it up a little bit and to have a little less intention towards some deeper topic. But even saying that, the fact of the matter is that the movies that influence us and that we connect with, there's some kind of deep connection there, right? It's something that we value that has made a difference in our lives that would tend to have an impact on us, so there's some story being told, and what's that story?
Absolutely.
Why is it important,
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. It's it's hard to even pick where to start. For me, I really didn't try, and this intentionally, I didn't try to go, what is my favorite movie? I feel like that's literally an impossibility. I like so many different films for so many different reasons. So I really just sat and I thought up the kind of first ones that came to mind. And I wrote those down, and I'm going to go with those because, I don't know, that was just kind of how I wanted to approach this. I didn't want to overstress the what is my favorite movie and overthink it. Rather, I wanted to just kind of go with what first came up and then share about how exactly what you just said, how those pieces impacted me. You want to know what literally the first one that I wrote down?
Yeah, of course.
Dirty Dancing.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That totally suits you.
Such a classic film. I mean, so many people either love it or hate it. It's a cult classic for sure. But I remember seeing Dirty Dancing as a young girl, really not experienced in the realm of, sex or any of that at that stage in my life. And so seeing it as a young girl and sort of growing into my young womanhood, I was informed about certain things. And I remember even when they talked about Penny, the other professional dancer in the movie, when they were talking about her getting knocked up, I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't even know what that meant for years later. And I had no real understanding of the abortion part of it. I really was unclear about that when I first saw this movie. But I definitely remember swooning at Patrick Swayze and really just, having a movie crush and imagining myself doing the Dirty Dancing with the hot, amazing dancer. But, honestly, that stuff does influence us. I don't think that Dirty Dancing necessarily inspired my love of dance and movement. I would probably more say that I liked that before I saw this film, but I think it certainly probably contributed to it. I don't know. I don't really have any deep consciousness or awareness of that. But yeah, I loved it. And this woman coming into her own, sort of stepping into what she believes and a little away from her parents. It just was such a poignant film for me when I saw it as a young woman.
What do you think the biggest like eye opener for in it when you saw that, like when you first picked it up? What are the scenes specifically in the movie that stay with you?
So, I mean, I would be lying if I didn't acknowledge the romantic nature of it, and like when they get together, like, of course, that's a wonderful moment. And you're like, oh my God, yay, love. So that for sure. And another scene that stuck out to me is when Baby is on this sort of bad date with this other guy that her parents are trying to make her go out with. So it's like the rebel in me is very clear, because I really resonated with this idea of, I'm not going to be pushed down a path. I'm going to go the routes that I am really called to go, even if my parents don't approve of that. So that was one thing. And anyway, so she's on this date with this person she clearly doesn't want to be on a date with. And they go into like this back room and find a refrigerator to like get a snack. And Baby sees Penny sitting upset and just sort of shivering and clearly upset, sort of in this back corner. She notices her, and she basically figures out how to sort of get out of the situation and go and get help for this girl that she saw. So I love that piece as well, where Baby was not necessarily trying to like get the guy. It wasn't about that at all. It was about, I saw someone who needed help and she took action and made that happen. And I just really love that.
That sounds like it's playing to your nature of connectivity and caring and wanting to always, be considerate of the people around you. So I hear the resonant, that's like a pre-existing component that I know Melanie to have. And I don't know if that's something that's always been part of your personality since you were a child, or if that's something that grew from seeing these kinds of things and having them presented and being like, oh, I like that idea.
Such a good question. I honestly don't know. I can't pinpoint a starting point of that in me.
I feel like a lot of the time movies kind of just act as the mirror, a lot like our friends or our lives do, and they show us the things about ourselves that are already there. They're like inherent traits, and they just bring them to our attention and go, oh, that's me. That really highlights for me.
Yep,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely, of course, loved that, the unexpected girl gets with the unexpected guy. Like of course, I loved that part of the storyline, like as most young girls do. That's why half the reason we love Dirty Dancing is it's just like, oh my God, Patrick Swayze.
So Patrick Swayze's in one of my top favorites too.
Yes,
right?
I love this. Go.
Yeah, because it was just the bomb. I mean, such a dude, right? I mean, Bodie.
Right.
Bodie, Pulp Fiction, okay? Not sorry,
Point
Pulp
Break.
Fiction. I just told Point Break. Yeah, I just did change the letter with the P at the front, which is Pulp Fiction is my other favorite movie. Point Break and Pulp Fiction are my two favorites, right? Like, and I'm totally happy to say those are my two favorite movies ever,
I love that. You're like clear. Those are my two favorite movies. Oh, so love it. Go on.
I've seen them both like 40 or 50. I've seen Pulp Fiction more than 50 times. More than 50.
I believe you.
Yeah.
There are things on my list that have that many
Point
views.
Break is another one where I'll never click past it if I was clicking.
Yep.
Those are like, stop, just let it play and I'll totally enjoy that story. So Patrick Swayze in Point Break as the, cool leader of the surfer gang, the bad guy, good guy kind of role, like I love that character so much because he's a bad guy, he's a bank robber, right?
Right.
He's a bank robber. He's a criminal, right? And he's a bad guy for that. And he does bad stuff. But you can't help but love him for his passion and for just how engaged and like wide-eyed curious, right? Like the wide-eyed curiosity, just like, let's do something interesting. Let's do something exciting. Let's do something risky. Let's do something instead of nothing.
Right.
And that, like, that driving energy of like the scene where he shows up to Johnny Utah's door. It's like knock, knock, knock on the door. And Johnny Utah's like crawling out of bed and the girl's in the back, And he's like, oh, come in to the front. And he's like, opens the door. It's still dark 30 out, And he's like, yeah, well, what's up? And he's like, man, it's overhead and tubes are breaking out there. It's like, time to go surf, bud. Get up. It's time to go. That attitude of like just pushing himself and pushing the people around him and those that he engages to do more and challenge themselves more and to be more adventurous and to do the thing, like get up out of bed when it's still dark out and go hit the water before the sun's even cracked the horizon, that echoed with me so powerfully. And I love that attitude so much. My first years, I will say years, and it exists still today. My first years at the Drop Zone, I would be the guy who would get up in the morning and it would be blue skies and beautiful out. And in Canada, where I started jumping, you only get, 2 months of summer. I'm going to be honest. Summer is 2 months long, right? And you get limited time. So I would go door to door, trailer to trailer, and be like, bam, 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 get up. First load's on a call. Bam, 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 bam. Get up. Next load, first load's on a call. Bam, 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 bam. And I would wake up every single person on the Drop Zone and be like, it's beautiful out. It's time to go.
Amazing.
This is it. And I didn't even realize it until this conversation right now that was probably influenced, like my behavior in that way was influenced by, seeing Patrick Swayze in this movie playing this character of Bodhi, of being like, come on, bam, 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 bam. It's time to go. It's time for adventure. It's time for fun.
It's amazing. It really is amazing how pop culture influences us. And these people, these characters that embody the qualities that we want or we hope to live into or grow into. Yeah, it's powerful influence for sure. No doubt. I love that. I mean, part of Point Break is they're on the edge, right? They're and this is the sort of more awakened, aware me going, fuck the system. Like they're kind of pressing back on the system. Not that I advocate breaking laws or, all the hardcore stuff that they did in that movie, but I do like the energy of pushing back on what is commonly accepted. So I love that. I mean, that shows up in obviously the surfing culture in that movie and also the skydiving that they do and stuff like that. But yeah. And
more importantly, the role of Johnny Utah, right?
Yeah, and he's challenged by that.
He's the law,
he's
right?
The system, yes.
All-American. All-American, football champion. Like, I'm an All-American. And here I am doing my All-American thing. I'm joining the FBI. I'm going to be the best of the best. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make sure that I, patriot by following, taking out criminals, bad people. And you go, oh, bad people, right? And you're like, whoa, oh no, this person that I found that I think is a bad person because they fall into this box of judgment that I've decided to place people in, happens to be somebody that inspires the shit out of me and actually makes me feel more like a real person and makes me feel more alive. And all the things about my own life start to come into play because of the mirror being presented by this criminal, you know? And yeah, I totally agree that there's a moral in the story that there is a line to draw, which is like, you can't go out there and rob banks and shoot people, and have this highly negative impact and disregard for other people's lives and well-being and still hold that idealism in place of like representing what it means to be a spiritual leader, or like, spiritual in ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Like there are lines. What
Yeah.
are those lines though? The lines
Yeah.
that have been dictated to us or the lines that we choose. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And so anyway, I'm going to take this to this goes to my next one of my next films is Shawshank Redemption. And I love that film so much because the reason I was thinking about it's a story for people who haven't seen it. It's a story of sort of a wrongful conviction. So it's a fascinating. This is definitely. I didn't even think about this is going to be spoilers. So just if you're not wanting to hear the spoilers, just stop listening today because you're probably gonna.
We want you to stop listening to our podcast right now.
Stop listening to our podcast. Go do something else and listen to the next one. But yeah, the reason I love Shawshank is I read the novella. So Stephen King wrote Shawshank Redemption, and it's
really? I
a
didn't know
novella. What?
I didn't know Stephen King wrote it.
Yeah, he wrote it, and it's a section in a book called Different Seasons. And I got super into this story as I think I was like 14 or something like that, 15 maybe at the most. And I was obsessively reading this particular story. It was so good. I couldn't put it down. It was one of those nights when my mom came out and was like, hey, get to bed. because it was so late, so past my bedtime as it were. But I just couldn't put this story down. And so anyway, I read it. And then when the movie came out, I was excited because, oh my God, this is one of my favorite stories. I watched it and I thought, wow, this movie is just as good, if not better, than that story that I was so intensely into when I read that as a younger person. And there's so much in this film, but interestingly, on the heels of the last couple of episodes we recorded, I feel like it's such an amazing, excellent story of friendship. I just love that. The story between Andy and Red is so moving to me because it's such a weird life. I mean, the friendship among all of the sort of various inmates is moving to me. But yeah, the friendship between Andy and Red, I always really loved. And certainly from a perspective of perseverance and not losing hope, like really persevering through any type of challenge to crawl through the shit, metaphorically, literally in this movie, and come out clean and free on the other side. Like that metaphor, holy crap, come on. How ridiculously poignant is that in life, period, whether it's through an emotional challenge, whether it's in a psychedelic ceremony when you're really doing the hard work, whether it's, in a work challenge or a relational challenge, you kind of crawl through that shit, you get through the shit, and as a result, you come out clean and free on the other side. Like, just love that.
Yeah, that's the whole journey in itself, right? Like that, it just defines the concept of like it's never going to be it's going to be type 2 fun in
Type
the
2
process, right?
Type 2
And it's
fun.
going to be like this is not. It's the exact opposite of anything you ever want. But then the reality is the cleansing, the purification, the release, the freedom, all the things that come along with having fought your battles and having pushed through the darkness and the challenges and the things that we think, that we couldn't possibly survive. They that old adage of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yep.
Yeah, there's an element in there. Yeah.
Love it.
So now, I mean, listening to your list, I'm like, it's interesting because I'm like, oh, these are not my favorite movies or movies I've even seen in any recent years. So I got my notepad out because I'm like, I'm going to write these down because I'm actually going to watch them. So, yeah.
What's next on your list? Or
Well,
what would you want to share next?
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about Point Break because
Yeah, do it.
I'm a Point Break baby. That's what I consider myself, right?
I love it.
That movie was so impactful that it really did change my life. Like, and like many people out there, there was a huge spike in the skydiving world following the release of that movie. And it really did change the way that I think about myself and how I choose. I see a lot of both of those characters in myself, of both Bodhi and Johnny Utah, of like holding respect and discipline in very high regard, and but also being a highly spiritual and person and a seeker of the light, a seeker of adventure, a seeker of like the pure passion and that connection and being present in the moment, and all the things that get represented by that kind of willingness of the spirit of Bodhi to just take the risk rather than shy away and be afraid. And then in that interplay in the story of like when Bodhi's challenged and they both have this character that's very much on point, where they get into these battle scenes with each other, like when he's chasing him down and he's got the president mask on and they're running after each other, and he can't shoot him because he loves him. Right. Yeah. And it's this is the story of self, right? It's like the part of me that like holds on to this idea of, oh, I have to be disciplined and I have to hold on to these ideals that I've been taught and all these things that are important to me because this is what's been impressed upon me my entire existence, versus the concept of like, just go with it. Just dive right into your fear and take it on headlong and be fearless and be present in the moment and find the flow in all of it. And this internal struggle. I mean, I can think of the times, I can think of one, it just pops right into the front of my mind, where I was sat on top of an antenna tower about 1,000 feet up alone. I'm so smart. Like 24 years old, I had climbed up an antenna tower when I had half a dozen base jumps, and sitting there at 1,000 feet alone and watching the sun start to come up and trying to make up my mind if I have the gonads to dump off this thing, and my internal dialogue is doing exactly that. Like, you want to do this? No, I'm terrified. I can't do this. You came up here, you get everything, like you're having this battle, and like literally standing there like, like surging, like trying to push and can't, and trying to push and can't, and like hands are gripped on the railing and like try to let go and they grip again. And this whole internal battle plays out, and I see that struggle like in the scenes in the movie where Bodhi's out the door of the plane and Johnny Utah's in the plane and he doesn't have a rig and he's got the gun in his hand and he's like, fuck it. In the best way, in like the real fuck being afraid of this, and just dives right out the door with no rig on and just charges after him in the sky and chases him down. And like, it's the scene is just so intense, and it's that I've heard this battle within my head so many times, and I'm really, really grateful for having the experience of watching this story play out and then being able to experience it myself, because coming to terms with those things, those fears and those challenges inside of myself has really been growth in the big picture, like really like, oh, okay, cool. I don't have to battle with who I am anymore. Like, I get it now, and it all eases into place. And so I really love this story. Yeah.
It's amazing when there's judgment around the decision-making process as a younger person or whatever, or just you don't have experience, so you're not sure if you're doing it right, quote unquote, whether, this idea or this battle of having, like, even how you put it, like having the gonads, like that is so, a classic thing of like, if you don't, there's something wrong or that's bad. Like, there's some inherent judgment almost in that. As I would imagine. Yeah. What?
Self-judgment.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like inherent self-judgment of if I don't jump, or even the fact that I'm challenged and I can't figure out whether to jump or not, is that it sounds like that experience of self-judgment of it's not okay that I don't necessarily know how to do this. or it's not okay that I maybe choose not to, or something like that. And that's actually a big part of my own chosen leadership in the sport of skydiving, is really trying to make that decision-making process, and you deciding, you general, any person in our sport, to, if they want to sit down, that's fine, that's cool. That's always okay. You know what I mean? So taking that and making a safe decision, but really aiming to remove that self-judgment from that type of decision process. I love that you shared that, because I think I can't imagine a ton of people don't feel that, either engaged in extreme sports or just engaged in life at all. You know what I mean? Which I contest is somewhat of an extreme sport.
If death is one of the possible outcomes.
Right. Life is an extreme sport. Fuck yeah, definitely. I love that.
Okay, so I appreciate having a little more time on that movie.
Yeah, of course.
I would say it's probably the most impactful movie in my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that it's a pretty tight race between Pulp Fiction and Point Break for like the movies I've watched the most times and just thoroughly enjoy. But I'd say impactful wise, definitely.
Oh, I've definitely watched Dirty Dancing a million times. I couldn't tell you. I just watched it the other day.
I'm looking forward to watching Dirty Dancing.
I literally just watched it the other day, and I literally just the other day watched like the behind the scenes making of. I'm not joking. Like I will own Dirty Dancing my whole life. I am all about that. That's one of my faves.
That's awesome. Okay, so tell me another.
Okay, so I said Dirty Dancing, Shawshank. The next thing that came out of my consciousness in my list was Inception. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
Yeah.
I don't think I have.
I have. That's another movie that I have seen 50 plus times for sure. It's a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and a handful of other great actors in my personal view. Why I love it is I don't want to ruin it if people haven't seen it, because it's deep and insightful, but it's this amazing, visually and intellectually gripping look at the mind. And I love that. The mind and our relationship with the experiences that we have in life and how we navigate those, and the courage it takes to go deeply into those memories and those experiences and those impacts on us. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to describe if you haven't seen it. I really would just invite anybody to watch it. I really loved it. You have to pay attention. It's not something you can do other work and watch sort of on the side. You have to watch the movie.
Put your phone down.
You have to put your phone down. You can't be working to watch it. It's one of my favorites.
Awesome. Well, I don't believe that I've seen it, so I'm going to definitely add it to my list. That's cool. I might even do movie night tonight, I think. Yeah, it might be a good movie night.
If that's the reason that it came into my consciousness, is just to share it briefly so people will watch it, that's cool.
Very cool. Okay, so I think it's an easy home run. You can throw this one out, and it's like lobbing a softball up for anybody to be able to hit it and be like, yes! One of the best movies ever made, my personal opinion, but I'm sure that pretty much everybody out there is going to agree. It's Forrest Gump.
Ooh, Forrest Gump. Such a good movie.
Oh my gosh. I adore the simplicity, right? There's just this beautiful nature. And I mean, I have to say Tom Hanks just absolutely nailed this role, as far as like a lifetime performance. It's an absolute top scoring movie. Maybe for me, it's going to be in my top 5 period. Cool. And I would say I've seen it, dozens of times. And the storyline is so beautifully narrated, with how he's just sitting on the bench, just telling the story the whole time. And it's all just storytelling, which I think the writers really hit it on the head with the concept of what is a movie supposed to do is tell a story. And the tradition of storytelling, which we've chatted about before, which is, handed down from all time, from the original, before we even had words, when we just sat around and memed out what our adventure of the day was, so that our family members, our tribe, could relate to the experience, around the fire. And so I feel like Forrest Gump nails the storytelling aspect, and it puts the viewer in both his experience from his point of view, but as well, it actually brings the viewer into the movie to be a participant in the movie, where you're the other person on the bench, who comes and goes and gets on the bus and leaves, and somebody else sits down and picks up, and he continues telling the story, and that gets to be you.
Yeah.
You get to be part of it.
I love the long-term nature of Forrest Gump as well. I love that it shows the evolution of the various characters and him over a long period and a long life experience. That is so cool. Like Lieutenant Dan.
Oh my gosh.
I love the story of Lieutenant Dan as well, because of, you just think that he could go one way and he ends up going another way, and yeah, I mean, it's just the long-term nature of life and the long-term nature of relationship, and all the struggle, but also all the possibility, all of what's possible.
What about the how random the universe is? Like, it really tells the story of how out of nowhere your life is going to make a 90-degree turn in a direction you never saw coming. It's completely ridiculous. One minute you're like, I'm here. Next thing you're like, oh my God, I'm in Vietnam in a war. Oh, the next thing I know, I'm a champion ping pong player. Like,
right.
How did I get from here to here? I'm on a shrimp boat,
Right.
And this is our lives, right? Like, this is what happens. And they just, matter of fact, tell the story from like chunk to chunk to chunk. And this is the cold reality that we're like, we have no idea what is around the next corner and who we're going to meet and what's going to happen.
So true.
And how we're going to react.
Yeah.
Right? How we're going to react. I love you see that in the story a bunch of times, where like when he's in the scene in the war and he just starts running in to go get everyone and bringing them all out and becomes a war hero.
Yeah.
And because nobody knows how he's going to react. He doesn't know how he's going to react. He just starts acting, taking action. And that also plays out later on in the movie when things go bad for him with Jenny and he just bolts.
Yeah, starts running. What an amazing metaphor. God, I've done that.
Everybody has done that.
It's such a classic. Yeah, it's such a classic tale, of the heartbreak leading to the running away, leading to the running, leading to it becomes something totally fucking incredible. It's just, it's such a beautiful section of the story, I think, too. Yeah, big time.
How everybody gets inspired too. Like, he runs away from his problems.
Yep.
So I did this. I did that. Oh my God. Like, I had all these problems and I freaked out and ran away and made a life out of it and inspired people by going after my passion, which was just something to do instead of thinking or feeling what I was feeling before.
Exactly right.
Just
exactly
I don't want to think about what that just happened behind me, and I'm going to keep it behind me by moving towards whatever that is. And I don't know what that is. It's just something I chose a direction in.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because right now all I need to do is not have that be close to my mind. So I that's exactly what I did with swooping, skydiving. Don't want to think about my
I'm
life.
aware.
I'm gonna do this.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's called vulnerability, people. Telling the story about how you just run away from all your problems.
Yeah, and it's amazing how long it can take sometimes to recognize that's what we've done or that's what we're doing. And it's okay. It's all okay. It all comes together as life.
yeah, sometimes it's even just completely inspiring and beautiful.
Yep, for sure. Interestingly, this is another good segue to the next thing that I wrote down. Not that we need to have any number of things that we share today. I just kind of wrote down a bunch based on what came out. But the next thing I wrote down was Sound of Music. And I think it's insightful talking about this idea of running away from our problems. I love the Sound of Music, definitely for the music. I love that it is based on a true story. I love that it has this tone of resisting oppression and parts of the system that is clearly not okay and wrong. So like resisting the Nazis and stuff like that. But what I just thought of connecting to this idea of Forrest Gump is that there's a scene in the movie where Maria, she clearly is starting to fall in love. The captain and she are starting to fall in love, and she freaks out. She's a nun, and she thinks that's her path in life. And so she runs away. She leaves the kids, she leaves him, and she just kind of disappears. And of course, that's very hurtful and makes them very sad and the children very sad. And she leaves, but then she gets counsel from the trusted people in her life, and she realizes that she actually wants to, and the right thing to do for her is to go back and to face that. Not that she knows how it's going to turn out. Not that, the captain might be marrying the Baroness, right? Like, so it's not that she knows how it's going to go, but that it's that she didn't want to run away from and let that choose her life. And so I love that. Interestingly, at the end of the movie, they choose to run together as a family away from that oppression. And that's like such a moving part of the story where they, as a family, climb over the Austrian Alps to freedom and safety.
Awesome. I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid.
Oh, I love it. I know every song by heart, every single word of the entire movie. I could speak to this
Totally
into the
doesn't
podcast.
Surprise me. I can see you singing along with it all too.
Every single word, my friend.
I'll have to watch it with you sometime. That'd be great.
Yeah, because that won't be annoying.
That'll be the best part. Musicals are a funny topic overall, right? Because musicals can be fantastic, or they can just be like, oh my God, they can be the worst thing ever. Yeah.
I think you have to love musicals. You have to love music. I mean, yeah. But anyway.
All right. I'm going to throw, now this is what I call an all-American, all-star. It just epitomizes American culture for me. And for this, I mean, I really value it. Again, it's the whole storytelling thing, but I think that the story, it hits Americana right on the head and says, this is the definition, at least of course, this is all just my own opinion,
Fair.
Welcome to your own, Armageddon.
Ooh, nice.
And I love the score.
Yeah.
I love the casting. I love the save the world premise of the movie. I love the ragtag team of blue collar general people, me, you, and any guy who could be working wherever, getting out there and getting after it and, living into our dreams of stepping up and being the one who like takes the responsibility on the shoulders. But I love the team mentality behind it. I love the father-daughter relationship that happens in there, and the son, the son-in-law type, young love, the pulling of the daughter away from the father, and the young boy pulling at, and this interplay and the transition of like the mature male role to the younger one, and all the pieces that go into it. And there's a shot which is one of my favorite. It's super simple. It's not, what am I going to say? It's one of my absolute favorite pieces of cinematography is when they like, and I'm not about a spoiler. I'm like, if you haven't seen this movie already, go see it. But when they hit the button and they shoot into, it's like the camera zooms in through her eye, and all of a sudden it goes in through the eye and out through the cosmos. And I absolutely love the way that this shot is done, because it says so much about how everything exists inside of us. You know, there's this one particular, like, zooming in on the eye, and the like, and this awareness of life and death all in one instant, all coming into a single moment. And it's kind of the singularity effect. I think it's the best interpretation, visual interpretation I've ever seen of what it means to not be in a world of duality, life and death, but to be in this singularity where everything comes into one existence all at the same time.
Oh, love that.
And I have a crush on Liv Tyler. So.
Well, of course, duh. Of course. Yeah. Oh my God. I bawled my eyes out. I
cry every time.
Oh my God.
Every time I cry.
I mean, any parental, like, mother-daughter, father-daughter story for me, I like lose my shit. I still cry a lot to this day, and I'm totally cool with it. I am, like, super cool with the fact that I love my parents so much.
For sure.
And I'm so connected to them intimately. It's, you know, it's like, it's a wonderful thing, I think, that the power of that emotional charge. But yeah, oh my God, bawled my eyes out with the fucking hand on the screen. And oh my God, Jesus.
Yeah. And I love the Evel Knievel parts in it where they're like, they have to jump over the canyon on the asteroid in the lunar rover kind of thing. Right. They're like, we're going for it. And it's like this total yeehaw, Dukes of Hazzard, Evel Knievel Americana, right? But like in outer space, you know, with a bunch of oil rig guys, you know, so it's just hyper ridiculousness, you know.
And the ragtag team being the ones that save the world. I love that too. That, like, you don't have to be some perfect, incredible, whatever, elevated on some pedestal type person. It's that when people come together with their unique skills and talents, they can do great things. That is such a beautiful message.
Absolutely. And that plays out in the interplay between the Roughnecks and the astronauts and soldiers.
Yep.
Right? So you've got this highly trained team that's like, you know, scientists, soldiers, astronauts, pilots, people that can do the job. And then you've got this group of roughnecks. And the truth of the matter is, one team can't do it without the other. This team can't do it without this team, and this team can't do it without this team. And what it's really about, what it's really saying is, we all need each other in some way or another. We need somebody who's willing to go for it, and we need somebody who's willing to follow the order, and we need somebody who's willing to think rationally, and we need somebody who's willing to get a little crazy and sit on the nuclear warhead. I just wanted to feel the power between my legs, you know? So it's like, all right.
Back to Dirty Dancing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I love the music in the movie. I think Aerosmith totally crushes it. And
I remember just listening to that song over and over and over again. Just loved it.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis. Like, these are some, in our lifetimes, I mean, I think these guys just completely crush it for,
What's so funny is the other day when I watched the Dirty Dancing making of movie, that I was telling you, this literally just happened in my life. There's this series on Netflix that shows sort of the making of some of the movies that made our lives. And one of those shows was about Die Hard, and it talked about how Bruce Willis was not a big deal. Like, Die Hard was his coming, like, big movie, but it was because he was not sort of heartthrobby, because he, like, had to basically look like not a guy that would be a hero in Die Hard. And Die Hard wasn't on my list. Although I do love that movie. But it's relevant to this. So now Bruce Willis, it's so fascinating in real life to see the actors go on that path of what they choose and the projects that they choose and the projects that they're actually given the opportunity to choose. It's that whole part of movie making, that whole part of creative teamwork, that whole part of creating, period, is also really fascinating to me and interesting to me.
It's very cool. So what else for you? Pick
another
one.
All right. Well, taking a little bit of a turn. after Sound of Music, what I wrote down, had to own it. It's Elf. I love the movie Elf. I will own
Will
that
Ferrell?
for fucking ever. Yeah, Elf with Will Ferrell. It's a Christmas movie. If you have not seen it, I mean, yeah, I get it. If you're not into holidays or Christmas, that's cool. That's no problem. That movie is so awesome because Buddy, the character that Will Ferrell plays, is this beautiful, epically pure person who does not fit in. He does not fit in at all. And yet he's this pure, beautiful, loving, and he champions these wonderful qualities like being together, loving each other, cuddling, and singing loud and bringing cheer to all. Like I cannot get over how much I love it, and of course it's ridiculous. It's really funny. So like that, I watch it every year, and it's super super awesome. And I could watch it outside of the Christmas holidays and probably be just as happy watching it. Boom, there's my speech.
I actually really dig on Christmas movies. It's one of the times a year when I actually sit down and I hit the button a bunch of times and watch a bunch of stuff. Like I really enjoyed the Grinch movie this year, the most recent version of it. Yeah, I thought that was super fun. And I love putting on the old Rudolph movies and Snowman and like the really classic like claymation type animation stuff. Oh yeah, I really enjoy that. And Charlie Brown and Snoopy.
It's the best, right? Yeah, I love the classics. I definitely call Elf a new classic because so many people love it. But I just feel like I really resonate with Buddy. Like I feel like I'm like him. You know, whether you commit to your positivity and the things that you believe in, and people resist you. And I just love that his beautiful positivity sort of really conquer and like really overcomes those dark forces.
They're not resisting you, Melanie. They're resisting their own fear of being positive themselves.
It's true. No, I know. And I just love that. Anyway, and Buddy, the world's best cup of coffee. It's a shitty cup of coffee, but he's like, this is the world's best cup of coffee. He's stoked on even the smallest little things. And I love that.
That's so good.
What's next for you?
I have one that's a little more poignant. There's two, actually. And these are silent. There's no no audio. Like they're not speaking. There's music there, but there's no storyline. It's completely visual. It's Samsara and Baraka.
And I've never heard of these in my life. Tell me more.
Okay, these are movies that were both done by the same people. Actually, I should know the name if we've done it, but I don't have it right here. So Samsara and Baraka are visual documentaries of who we are as an entire being on this planet. They're the story of the earth and all things of the earth, all animals, all plants, all beings, and our relationships together, and how we as humans play into this story and how our choices and decisions affect the whole health of the being that is the world.
Wow.
Very, very powerful documentaries. Sometimes really hard to watch. There's sections that are going to be very challenging because they put the truth right in front of us, in front of our own eyes, and other parts that are just awe-inspiring, like just so in awe of the pure beauty of who we are and everything that is, and the breathtakingness that is a sunset, that is the Mount Everest, that is the Grand Canyon or the Arctic. The pure beauty that is one animal caring about another, and then the polarity of one animal caring nothing about the other. So it's so touching and so moving. And if anybody, I highly recommend, if you have not seen these movies, these are a must watch for anybody that would be even willing to listen to this podcast for a second, just to click for a second. These are things you would absolutely should do for yourself.
Nice.
And they're highly developed spiritual statement about who we are as humans, but also who we are as an entire being, as in life as a whole. And that includes all things in the universe, all things that exist. There's no separation between anything. It's all, we are all one big thing.
I love it. I'm definitely going to watch them. I look forward to it. I mean, yeah, I'm a fan. Documentaries is a whole different. Gosh, we could do a whole episode on documentaries and.
Well, I'm a like honestly, like I'm a nature film watcher. Like I think I've watched every single nature thing that I've ever seen put on air. You know, like whether
awesome.
it's everything. You know, I'm actually highly versed when it comes to like understanding all the species that exist on the planet and where they are and the ecosystems and everything, just from intense documentary watching. You know, the whole Planet Earth series, it was just continues to be an absolute phenom of videography, cinematography, you know, biology, capture of all the things out there. Oh, I love that stuff so much. My whole life has always been like that. So.
I love that. Do you know where that comes from or why?
Yeah, I think my mother, I can thank for that, for putting Life magazine, encyclopedia of the natural world in front of me at a very young age. I was very blessed to have this catalog of this giant stack of Life magazine, Natural World. And I also was very fortunate, and I consider myself to be, this is like the most beautiful gift I could ever receive, the entire National Geographic collection from its inception.
Wow.
Somehow I ended up with like everything from like the 1920s or 30s all the way forward, like every single issue in an entire book cabinet, this massive cabinet in my basement when I was a kid, and I read every single one of those things.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, and now I have a DVD collection that has every episode, every magazine of National Geographic that's ever been made.
Yep.
So that's on my shelf right over here because I value that so much, and I've still maintained those subscription to the magazine for many years. Yeah,
that's so cool. I love those small pieces of our lives that influence those influence points.
So think about that. You know, like this is something, we're all adults who are likely listening to this program. So I love when we have the opportunity to influence a child, those kinds of impactful gifts. I mean, it's nice to have whatever the flashy toy is these days, but that's not the stuff that makes the big difference when you're older. I mean, I loved my Millennium Falcon. Don't get me wrong. Thanks, Grandma. That thing was awesome. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. That the best, coolest toy ever. But it didn't impact me with the same value that National Geographic collection did. Like, oh my, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That is one of our core missions with our new demonstration jump team. So highlight our new team. Our core mission is to inspire women and girls to live bold, brave lives of their own design. And so if people can look at us landing and seeing women landing parachutes in a, you know, public venue and some event where they would never see that can really create a stake in the ground moment for a young person. I am super excited at that possibility. Yeah, not just for flight or skydiving, but really for the broader scope of, wow, they can do that. What can I do? Just inserting that question and that possibility into young minds just excites me to no end.
I'm super proud of you women for inspiring others and for taking on the challenges yourself to be able to be the women that you are today, which can easily step into these roles with full confidence.
Thank you.
And be the type of women that other young girls and other women out there can look up to and be like, hey, I can do the things I want to do in my life too. I'm going for it.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to go back to the National Geographic really quickly and share, I'd say this is probably the last share I'll share for this time around, but Avatar. Avatar to me is just one of my absolute favorites because of the connection to the earth, the clear story and beautiful story in that movie, and amazing. I just feel like they amazingly showed and visually represented how we are connected with the earth and with nature and with other beings and each other. It's just, I love it so much. Like, I see you. I just can't. Yeah, love, love, love.
I can echo that. Any movie that talks about our greater connection is really on the top of my list every time, you know. And that one, I feel like it's a pretty well told, like the story is told very well for the time, you know, that we live in today, the way
Correct.
that the characters are and the way that it's laid out, you know, in kind of the point in time that it I don't know what word I was going to use there. I started saying a word and I don't even know what word I was going to use.
The time that we're in now.
I know,
The
it's
period.
the period.
Period.
Yes. Yeah. Comma. All right. So, I got a couple more on my list that I want to share still.
I want to hear them. Go for it. I'm good. With my shares. I want to hear yours.
I have one more that just popped up for me, which is super funny one. And I think we all need more comedy in our life. And as I started to think about this, I'm like, oh, there's a whole list of funny movies.
Oh my
right?
God. Yeah, we could do an episode of comedy.
I'm almost a default to comedy. Like it's almost always that I go like nature or funny, you know,
Cool.
because I'm like, I want to see something beautiful and just inspiring and makes me feel peaceful, or I'd rather laugh. I almost never choose like to scare myself or to like overstimulate myself or put violence in my face or that kind of stuff, you know? So this is a classic one. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Love it.
Oh my gosh.
Love it.
The entire storyline, Cameron, when he just goes catatonic. So funny. You know, so funny.
And Jennifer Grey in
Yeah.
the sister role. Oh my God. She plays such an amazing pissed off sister.
Yes.
Oh my
One
God.
of the best characters in the movie, right? Yeah. Just constantly. And Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen. You know, bad boy in the police station, just sitting there like,
So chill.
hey there. Oh my God. I can so resonate with his character.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
I can only imagine you
I
as a
love
young person.
I know. That was me as a young person. When I was in my like 18 years old, 19 years old, I was like, yeah, I'm in all kinds of trouble right now. Going through a rough patch in life, people, and I'm looking good doing it. I'm glad I got you there.
Oh my God. A rough patch. Looking good doing it.
Yeah.
Totally chill.
All right.
Oh my God, so awesome. I agree with you completely that there's a ton of comedy movies on my list. No question about it. Tons of them.
I want to mention one more very quick, and then I want to leave one on the table because I'm going to finish with one I haven't seen.
Ooh,
Yeah.
love it.
Okay. Before I touch on that one, though,
Let's do it.
I'm going to bring up one of my other favorites that I think if you haven't watched this one, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Jim Carrey. And the story is so well written, and the confusion, like the chaos that plays out throughout it, and I'm not sure, and the relatability of the story to each one of our own lives of when we've struggled with making choices and not knowing how we feel about them, and wanting to get past things, but then wanting to hold on to things, and this interplay, and cutting away from parts of ourself that are important to us, or villainizing people in our lives that we love, and then burning bridges and all these kinds of ideas. And they freaking crush it in this movie, and I've seen this dozens of times, and again, I'll stop on it anytime. And there's so many scenes that I just adore in this movie so much.
I'm such a fan of Jim Carrey as an actor, in his comedic work, in his more deep and meaningful work, and as just a person, and where he is on his own spiritual path. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Huge fan as well. I absolutely love the journey that we've seen in Jim Carrey as well. And I absolutely love the way he's completely open about it. And he's just
Agreed.
said, like, who was I? I didn't even know, like, I was just all these characters. I think we can all, in some way, and I'll say for myself, I completely resonated with the idea of, like, made up an identity for myself that was based in who I was being because of this role that I'm playing, that, says this is who I am. And then when the role ends, I don't know who I am anymore, because I put myself into that role in such entirety. Like, I've made it everything that I am. And you come out the other side of the movie, or for me, my story in being a pro athlete, and then going, I don't even,
Oh, yeah. Same. Melanie Curtis, professional skydiver. Yeah, I know that person well. Melanie Curtis without skydiving, no clue who that is. Who's that? Yeah. Super cool.
Okay, so I'm going to put this one on the table, and I'm going to read it as a recommendation from one of my very best friends. He's on my personal board of directors, Mr.
Love
Brad
it.
Chatelier, member of the Trust the Journey family. Thank you for your support, Brad. Love having you.
Love you, Brad.
Love you so much, Brad. The Best of Youth.
The Best of Youth?
The Best of Youth. An Italian drama. It's 6 hours long.
Wow.
It is a 40-year cross-section of the lives of a group of best friends and family.
Oh, fascinating. I've never seen it either. I will watch it.
Yeah. 6 hour long drama for all you ladies out there who like some drama. Let's get on the couch and snuggle for 6 hours. Yeah.
Let's Netflix and chill 6 hours. Watching a deep sort of documentary and drama.
Cross section of 40 years of a group of friends and family.
Amazing. I love it.
Brad.
Oh my God. Speaking of that cross section of family, it's just I since we're closing up this episode, it's always curious to me how things build over time. We talked about that a bit this episode, but it is exciting to me to see how the Trust the Journey family is growing, and how we're growing, how the show is growing, how this project and all of it, all of this stuff that is connected to Trust the Journey, both the creative creating, both the teamwork between us, both the family and the relationships and connections building there. It's beautiful to be a part of, and to witness and to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to send out some gratitude, because gratitude is the attitude. And one of the things that I have, thank you, universe, for reinforcing things with science when I find myself coming to a personal epiphany and then having some science show up right afterwards to reinforce it and anchor it for me. Thank you, universe. Gratitude actually changes us. Just the simple practice of thinking about why or what we might be grateful for actually changes our physiology and makes us happier people, just by making a practice. So
Yes.
The whole thing of having a gratitude journal, a gratitude diary, let's say every day write down something you're grateful for. Just doing that, just thinking about how grateful we are, actually makes us feel better, feel happier, and just be more positive. So I am eternally grateful to everybody who chooses to push play, who subscribes, who likes, who shares, who takes part in joining us on this journey. And I'm eternally grateful to Melanie for being my teammate on this journey as well, and providing this space for myself and for everybody else to participate in being open and vulnerable and trusting and connected and all the things that we talk about. It's not just a tagline, people.
Yep.
It's not. It's the legit. Thanks, Mel. Legit.
It's so legit.
Yeah. So, and the Trust the Journey family and everyone, and it's really changing my life. I see it in my connections with my teammates, with my business partners, with my friends, with my lovers, with my family, with people I randomly meet, strangers. The way that all life is playing out is getting better and better and more joyous and more easeful, as a result of just living into these values and sharing together. So thanks, everyone.
Ditto. Ditto. Join us, everybody. Trustthejourney.today. All the ways. Share if you're inspired. We love you so much. Tagline, legit. Keep laughing, keep loving, and keep trusting the journey.
Love you.
Love you.